been reported that after just one season at the club, Max Kilman is up for sale this summer should certain valuations be met. Now, before I talk about Max Kilman, before I get into the video, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Mark, first and foremost, for welcoming me onto the channel, getting me on board. Loved it so far. I love talking about West Ham, despite it being a terrible season. And to those in the comments as well that have welcomed me, I really do appreciate it. And if you can help me repay the favour to Mark and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, drop a like on the video as well. It'd be great to kick my videos off with a few likes. So yeah, if you could do that, that'd be much appreciated. Now on to Max Kilman, and just wanted to talk about him and his sort of performances this season and a few bits and bobs coming out from the club regarding him. So it has been reported, coming out from a source within the club, that if certain valuations are met, which haven't been disclosed, but you'd imagine it would be anything close to what we paid for him, which was obviously 40 million quid last summer, that we would be willing to let him go and that Potham would use the money to reshape the squad. Now, there's a chance that this is the latest in the line of the PSR limit reach sort of lines, if you like, where the club are pleading poverty, saying that they need to sell to buy, all this stuff that Mark talks about in the previous video. And it's the latest in that sort of line. But I do think it's clear that Potter has been unimpressed with Kilman, as I think a lot of West Ham fans have been as well, particularly the second half of the season. And that if a good offer came in for him, he'd be let go. But having said all that, this is my personal opinion, I don't think it will happen, mainly because I don't think another club will pay that sort of money. You'd think it would be at least 30, 35 million quid to get him. I don't see another Premier League club paying that, because of how poor we've been as a club, and particularly second half. Like I say, I think since Potter's come through the door, that I don't think Kilman has been very good at all. So yeah, I don't see it happening. I'd be very surprised if Kilman's not a West Ham player at the start of next season. But it is clear that the opportunity is there if a club did want to pay for him, that he would be let go. And it's a sad indictment of our recruitment policy and our transfer window last summer, that a player that we bring in for 40 million quid and wanted by the new manager at the time, Lopetegui, that we already are looking to offload him if we can. It shows how bad our recruitment's been. It shows that one bad decision follows another. We was all underwhelmed when we heard Lopetegui would be the choice for the head coach last season, or last summer, I should say, and that Sullivan was going down the cheap route, as he often does. And obviously, when you bring in a manager, you have to back him, and Lopetegui wanted Kilman. So then what happens is that it's proven to be a bad decision to hire Lopetegui because he's sacked a few months later. And then obviously you're left with Kilman. You're left with the player that he wanted, and you spent £40 million on him. You've got to recoup as much of that as possible if you do offload him or keep him. So yeah, I think it's the latest in a long line of bad decisions and bad recruitment. We just haven't got it right for so long now. There's been very few occasions where we brought someone in and they've done well. But having said all that, in my personal opinion, I don't think we should sell, unless, of course, we get a really good offer. I don't think it's a bad thing if he stays for another season, because it'd be great, wouldn't it? It would be absolutely great for once if we brought a player to the club, they didn't hit the ground running, and we actually, rather than just offload them for whatever we can get, which we seem to do, we actually improved the player. We actually worked with him, made him better. He started performing for the club. And then if we then want to sell him at a higher price, or he just stays at the club, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it would be nice for that to happen. And to be honest, when Potter came to the club, I thought that was going to happen. I thought he was going to improve players because he's got that sort of reputation as a good coach. And I thought we would see some West Ham players that were not performing actually get better and better and better. And that's just not happened, particularly with Kilman, who, if anything, has regressed since Potter walked through the door. I think he was definitely better under Lopetegui. So, yeah, I can't see this happening. I do think as well that if we are, it's a big if we are able to bring a very good centre-half in this summer, I do think that Kilman will all of a sudden look better. I think he needs a leader next to him. I think much like Mark says with the goalkeeper situation and the fact that we've got two number twos, I almost feel like that about the centre-backs as well, that we have two centre-halves who would be decent secondary centre-backs to a primary leader standing next to them. And I think if Kilman had that, he would look miles better all of a sudden. So I do think that if we can actually, for once, get that recruitment right and bring in a top centre-half who is a leader, because we definitely need some leadership within the defence, within the team, then I do think all of a sudden that makes Kilman a better player. Where I feel like Kilman needs to improve massively is his concentration, and some of his aspects of his defensive play. We all know that he's decent on the ball. That comes with it. We knew that when he comes to the club. He's got a good left foot. He can pick a pass. He's good coming out with the ball, and physically he's decent as well. He's not slow. He's fairly strong, pretty quick. So I think physically and on the ball, he's fine as a centre-half, but just those defensive aspects, which are quite important for a centre-half in the Premier League, concentration particularly, I just don't think he's anywhere near the level he needs to be, and I think that's what he needs to improve. Even the Brighton second goal last weekend, ball goes over his head, and you see it so many times with some centre-backs where the ball goes over their head, they lose the man behind them, and then the ball comes back in, and then that player scored, and they turn around and it's like, I missed that one. And I think Kilman, even on that one, sort of gambled where he thought the ball would go on the sort of second action, and it obviously didn't happen, and it was definitely his fault for that goal. And that's happened a few times this season, it has to be said. And I do think that is where he needs to improve. But having said that, that is an area you can improve. Let's face it, if you're not quick, you're not going to get quicker. So I do think that your concentration, your positioning, you can work on those. And like I say, a top centre-half standing next to him might be able to improve his game. He obviously works alongside Craig Dawson at Wolves, and I think if I think about West Ham centre-halves that had that concentration down, that were very good in that aspect, Craig Dawson would be the one, and probably James Collins as well. You just felt like they were alert for the full 90 minutes. And that is what Kilman needs to do. And if we can bring someone in, obviously not those two, particularly not Dawson, because he's obviously left West Ham, he's of a certain age. But that's where he needs to improve. And I think if we can get anywhere near to Dawson's level of sort of concentration and being alert to danger, then he could turn into a top centre-half for West Ham. So I would like to see him kept at the club and to see him improve and get better under Graham Potter or whoever the next manager is. But I think it's clear that Potter will be in charge for next season. And, his injury record has been very good. He's been an ever-present this year, so that's quite rare for West Ham. So, I would give him another chance. I definitely think there's been a few good performances littered this season. I'm thinking Crystal Palace away in particular, where he was defensively solid, come out with the ball for Jared Bowen's goal, great assist there. I think there's been a few other games. I think Villa away seems to stick in my mind in the league, where he made a really important challenge to keep Villa at bay, and then we go on to get a point. So it's been few and far between. I'm clutching at straws a little bit, but I do think there's been some signs that Kilman can be a decent centre-half for West Ham. Like I say, there's just a few areas of his game that I'd like to improve. And given that we ain't going to get what we want for him, I think it makes sense to try and improve him this summer, bring in another top centre-half if we can. And this is not writing off Todibo either, by the way. I do like Todibo. I think Todibo's got potential as well. But like I say, he very much is in the same mould, in that I think Todibo next to a top centre-half would be a much better player. And, he's had a few injury problems this season, Todibo, and he doesn't seem to be able to finish a game. So if we can get those problems sorted out, I do think he could be a decent option. But I do think, anyway, you need 3 good centre-halves, which we struggle to get 1, let alone 3. I think you need 3 because you're always going to get injuries. You're always going to get fitness issues and suspensions. So it would be nice. I think Mavropanos probably will leave the club, or will at least listen to offers. So I do think there's a space for a top centre half, obviously, and then all of a sudden Kilman and Todibo would probably look like much better players. But look, we were warned. We were warned by Wolves fans. I think they said at the time when we signed him that 40 million quid was a lot of money, which I agreed with at the time. It's not being clever after the fact. I definitely thought it was too much. He he has some issues defensively, and that's definitely played out this season. So, yeah, Kilman's susceptible as any West Ham player this summer to a clear out, and let's see what happens. Come on, you Irons.